Venezuela's president has been captured, and here's everything you need to know about it. At 4:21 a.m. Eastern Time on January 3rd, the President of the United States posted a message that instantly rewrote the rules of geopolitics. Nicolas Maduro, President of Venezuela, had been captured, alive, removed from his country, and flown out under U.S. custody. 2026 announced itself. January 3rd isn't just another day. It was exactly 35 years ago that U.S. forces captured Manuel Noriega, the Panamanian strongman accused of drug trafficking, who refused to step down after a disputed election. Same accusations, same region, same outcome. Back then, it was called Operation Just Cause. Today, there isn't even a name yet. On January 2nd, Nicolas Maduro was on Venezuelan state television, smiling, shaking hands with a Chinese delegation in Caracas.
The year of the horse. Let's ride. The perfect union has come out of nowhere at all times.
That was the last time the world saw him free. A few hours later, residents of Caracas heard something different. Explosions. At 12:50 a.m. Eastern Time, the first blast, then another, then another. CNN correspondents on the ground reported military aircraft flying low over the city. The Associated Press counted at least 7 explosions. Runways at military airfields were hit. Communications sites went dark. Key bases across Caracas and Miranda State were targeted. By the time most of the world woke up, it was over. According to U.S. officials, Delta Force, America's most elite special operations unit, had completed the mission. Maduro and his wife were on a U.S. warship in the Caribbean. This wasn't just a strike. It was a message. In a later interview, President Trump confirmed Maduro had been taken to the USS Iwo Jima. He was later flown to the U.S. mainland, arriving at Stewart Air National Guard Base near New York, later on January 3rd, 2026. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced both Maduro and his wife would face trial in U.S. courts on charges including narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, corruption. This wasn't regime pressure. This wasn't sanctions. This was decapitation, and it shattered an unspoken rule that had existed for decades. You don't grab sitting heads of state. That rule is now gone. Inside Venezuela, the response was chaos layered with fear. The government declared a state of emergency. The defense minister called it the worst aggression in Venezuelan history. Troops were deployed nationwide. In pro-Maduro neighborhoods, armed civilian militias appeared in the streets, holding posters of the captured president. Elsewhere, empty roads, no crowds, no resistance. Power outages hit parts of Caracas, but traffic moved. Life continued. Argentina celebrated. Colombia condemned the attack and rushed troops to the border. Europe urged restraint, but the real story is who didn't act. Russia, deeply concerned, but no action. Iran, angry words, no leverage. Cuba, outrage and fear. China, initially silent. These are Venezuela's strongest allies, and none of them stopped this, which raises a terrifying question. If they couldn't protect Maduro, who can they protect? Was this legal or just possible? In Washington, the knives are already out. Supporters argue the president acted to protect U.S. personnel and enforce criminal indictments. Opponents say this crossed a constitutional and international red line. One Democratic senator warned, "This signals to the world that targeting heads of state is now acceptable U.S. policy. And once that signal is sent, you can't unsend it. Congress will debate this. Courts may rule on it. But the precedent? That's already set. Who runs Venezuela now? This is the most dangerous unknown. Right now, Maduro's inner circle still exists. The vice president is attempting to hold the state together. But there are only 3 realistic paths forward. 1. A negotiated transition to U.S.-recognized opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez. 2. A military takeover, exploiting the power vacuum. 3. Internal fragmentation. Militias versus military versus civilians. A Venezuelan entrepreneur warned bluntly, this vacuum could lead to a bloodbath, and history suggests he's not exaggerating. The big question no one wants to ask, did Maduro cut a deal? Some opposition figures quietly speculate that the strikes were theater, a face-saving exit, but this theory falls apart fast. Maduro is facing U.S. criminal charges. Trump publicly humiliated him. Marco Rubio, his fiercest opponent, was central to this operation. This doesn't look like mercy. It looks like finality. It's important to understand something clearly. This wasn't sudden, this wasn't impulsive, and this definitely wasn't accidental. What happened last night was the final move in a months-long escalation. Back in 2020, Nicolas Maduro was formally charged by a U.S. court with narco-terrorism. At the time, it felt symbolic, a legal gesture with no real teeth. Then came the bounty, first $25 million, then $50 million under Donald Trump. Still, few believed it would ever lead to an arrest. And then the posture changed. By mid-2025, U.S. warships and aircraft were quietly repositioned into the Caribbean. By September, American forces were striking what they called drug trafficking vessels. Dozens of strikes, over 100 deaths. Then came the failed attempt to bribe Maduro's pilot, a clear sign that Washington was actively hunting him. By late December, the escalation crossed a new line. The strikes moved from the sea to the mainland, and days later, the final operation came. This wasn't a war. It wasn't an invasion. It was something colder. A smash-and-grab regime decapitation, limited in scope, overwhelming in effect, and designed to end before anyone could respond. And that raises the most uncomfortable question of all. If this was the end of the escalation, what exactly was the beginning? What this tells every leader on Earth, every head of state is now replaying this in their mind. Not just America's enemies, everyone. They're asking themselves a new question. If this can happen to him, how fast could it happen to me? It doesn't matter whether you're pro-American or anti-American. What matters is whether you're useful or inconvenient. And that's a very different world to live in. The Monroe Doctrine is back, and it's not whispering. Buried inside the U.S. national security strategy is a line that now feels prophetic. The Western Hemisphere is America's strategic backyard. Translation? Other powers, China, Russia, Iran, are not welcome. Venezuela was the test case, and every leader in Latin America knows it. If Washington can remove a president in 3 hours, what are the red lines anymore? Cuba knows it. Nicaragua knows it. Even friendly governments are recalculating, because power like this doesn't just deter enemies. It terrifies allies. Oil, migration, and what comes next. Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves on Earth. With Maduro gone, China's investments are vulnerable, Russian joint ventures are exposed, U.S. companies are circling, and if instability explodes, millions more refugees could flee. Colombia is already preparing. So are Peru, Ecuador, Chile. This isn't just Venezuela's crisis. It's Latin America's. Final thought, this wasn't just a military operation. It was a demonstration that borders can be crossed, that presidents can be taken, that speed now matters more than scale. 3.5 hours was all it took to end a regime. And whatever happens next, peace, chaos, or something worse, the world will be measured as before January 3rd and after it.
All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just, fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist Maduro is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us, it didn't allow it to happen.